What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another AGX Comics video. And today I'm going to be talking in the current comics. I was going to do this as a 2003 or 2023, who won this year, in my opinion, in terms of Marvel or in terms of DC Comics. And honestly, I was thinking, like, oh, well, I can't really give it that much of a fair shake because I did jump back into, whoops, being a new reader way back in, or not way back, but like midway through the year. So I'd be like, oh, it's kind of, it doesn't encompass all of 2023, which I would probably get a lot of flack on, and I don't want to do that. So instead, I'm just going to say currently, as of like mid, as 6 to 7, or actually probably more or less 8 months. And I was like, okay, well, how would I do this? Because I don't read every single freaking title that comes out. If I did that, I would definitely be broke. So I was trying to figure out. So I was like, okay, we'll look at major events. We'll look at the minor, what I call minor events, kind of like your Predator, Wolverine, your Godzilla, Justice League crossover thing. So those would be like, in my opinion, minor events versus major events being stuff like Night Terrors, and what's the other one? I'm drawing a blank on it. The Summer of Symbiotes. There you go. Those are the two that I jumped into for the big two. So with that being said, that's kind of what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at both of them and then give you my opinion on both and tell you which one I think definitely won in terms of quality of material. This is not anything to do with sales. This is not to do with, what book's hot right now. Nothing like that. Just at the end of the day, in my opinion, for the actual story matter for the current comics, which one did better. So, with that being said, let's jump into it. So first up, we'll look into DC Comics. So I jumped in right before Night Terrors, so pretty much was there for the dawn of the DC major stuff that started, like Titans and all that stuff. The only thing I didn't read Lazarus Planet. I am gonna go back and probably pick up a trade paperback and kind of read that event because I'm curious on what led to Night Terrors, right? Because I know there's just like a whole part that I'm missing, and that is clearly it. So before I go to that and even like go backwards reading events, before I do all that, I'm going to talk about all the stuff that I did read, right? Because that's the only fair shake. I can't go back and then talk about that. So, in terms of the Night Terrors, we'll start there. Night Terrors, the execution was horrible in terms of like, hey, let's take all of our main titles that we did a soft rebirth with, and then we'll pause all of them for this Night Terror stuff, kind of have everyone have their own 2 issue kind of span. That really was just annoying because after 2 months of it, you're like, dude, could we just like, you forgot a lot of the stories, and I'm sure all your other comic book YouTubers will say the same thing, right? That it was god awful in terms of like, oh, it just totally killed momentum. But let's look at the core of what Night Terrors did. It obviously set up Dr. Hate into this beast world, right? And with that, I think it was very, very valuable. And like very valuable in terms of like DC does, at least in my opinion, right? Right now, if you take this in a time capsule of like 7 months up until like right now, and this would be being recorded right during the new year, we see that it's like, at least for me, it feels like it's in the same universe, right? Like things are being referenced that are going on in other books. I like that because it makes me think that like, oh, hey, like each one of these books coexists in the universe that it should. You know what I mean? Obviously you got books like Batman Off-World, right? And stuff like that that are coming out that are their own little glimpse into something else, right? And it's just kind of a not I don't want to say throwaway story, but in terms of like the big picture of DC Comics, we all feel together on like who's what and where. And I feel like they had to kind of have an event to lead up to the one that we're currently reading right now. And I'm cool with it. I think it's fine. I think it was definitely the way to go because let's face it, like a lot of my big portions I'll get to Marvel are just the fact that it doesn't feel together at all because it's not, and it's so jumbled, and it feels like each event is kind of more of like a throwaway, and that's why I don't like Marvel as much as DC's events, especially this year, because it seems really correlated with the same stuff. Not saying that I hated everything from Marvel, but you're going to see when I talk about the Marvel timeline, it's really hard to put together, and there's a reason why. But looking at Night Terrors, I gave it like an overall C. I covered it in depth on my channel. I was like, I liked the idea. I liked the artwork for sure of the main title, but all of the spin-off or not spin-offs, all of the side books that did not matter whatever, like whatsoever, was just kind of a waste of time. And that's just my opinion. I thought those books kind of sucked. But that's not saying that I didn't. I the actual core books I liked, and I liked the story with Deadman. It introduced me more to Deadman and the Sandman, right? And actually, like, got me into the Sandman character more than I would have ever even imagined. So, right? And I then they relaunched, or not relaunched, but re or launched a Sandman solo title, kind of a 6 issue series or whatever. And I think they're on book number 4, or what it might be. And you know what? It's been great. Big fan of it. So it's like, okay, there's a lot of positives to take away, even though the execution of Night Terrors kind of sucked, but that was just my opinion. Now, let's talk about Marvel. Marvel had jumped in right with the Summer of the Symbiotes, and yeah, I put it to you this way: Venom is one of my favorite characters, definitely in the top 5 favorite comic book characters, right? For sure. So, I feel a little bit biased because I feel like a lot of people did not like the Extreme Venomverse 1 through 5, and then the Death of the Venomverse 1 through 5, right? It was a 10-book series. And there was a lot of books that, like, even me liking some of the stories, right? Because there's like 2 or 3 stories in every book. When it came to the Extreme Venomverse, that introduced us to some of these verse characters, I remember I tried to cover it on my channel and it was super hard to do because there was so many like characters, but we did get some cool stuff like Kid Venom and stuff, which actually is getting its own solo title, but that's another side thing to talk about. But there was a lot of good that came out of that side as well. So I don't want to hate on that because I really did like the story of the Venomverse stuff, but it lasted way too long. Now, let's go with the Fall of X, right? The Fall of X, love it or hate it, I in the ballpark of like it, right? It's not the greatest thing, but I do like it. And I love how it like, started with Tony Stark and kind of went through this thing and we're still kind of dealing with it. It's really interesting, right? And I think that was the major event versus where the Summer Symbiote stuff was kind of like this throwaway verse thing. But I wasn't there for Captain America Cold War or Sins of the Sinister. But going forward, like there's something about the events at Marvel that I don't like because it just seems like it's from a different thing. Now, the Fall of X did include other titles, and right now we're seeing the event of Spider-Man Gang War, right? And that's another one where it's like, okay, I'm reading it. Am I don't again, it's something led by Zeb Wells. I got my own beef with that and other videos you could check out on my channel, but I also am sitting there like, like it's really just not doing it. But I do like the Daredevil stuff, and that ties in a lot of other books, which is cool. That builds and flushes the universe a little bit, and I think it's good, right? But for whatever reason, there's something about the Marvel events that just don't do it for me. So now I'm just like that's where I'm at. I think that I really enjoyed the beginnings of Fall of X. Spider-Man Gang War, I'm really down the middle on, like kind of like again C plus territory for me. Then the Summer of the Symbiote stuff, Again, it was its own kind of thing. I wouldn't even call like it was slated to be a major event, but it really didn't feel like it. But there was things that came from it, right? Like or eventually are going to come from it in a few weeks or so with the Kid Venom, or I think, God, I think it's this week. But it's like I don't know. It's a toughie. It's definitely a tough position to be in because there's a part of me that wants to say like, oh yeah, this was great, but also I don't know. I kind of feel indifferent about it. But regardless, in the end, so this is kind of I know this is kind of like a listening to Andrew from AGX kind of rant here about current comics and whatnot, but this is kind of my final thought, right, on which one, in my opinion, who won this time period, 2023, whatever, right? I know I didn't cover a bunch of the other events that happened in the beginning of the year because I wasn't reading, and it wouldn't be fair to me to sit here and try to lie and try to read something like it's just not going to happen. So I can't count those. I can only count what I've like actually looked at. And I am taking in the Predator versus Wolverine stuff, which is an amazing artwork, but I also put out a video on that if you guys want to check it out. Where again, it really no question goes to DC. I think DC right now feels like they're all together. They're driving towards a plot, and you could just tell that like things are building up, especially right now during Beast World, right? We're seeing things and ramifications in the character who was, this Doctor Hate Mander Waller. We're gonna see, I'm guessing we're gonna go in the direction of trying to get back the Justice League, or it might be this another big event where it's like hating on the Justice League and they get like exiled. Is what I'm kind of gonna guess where this is gonna go. But also, it feels together, and that's definitely something I'm not getting with Marvel. But let me know in the comments section. I might get some heat for this video, but this is just my opinion. I wanted to make this during the end of the year, but I just didn't have time, and other videos had to be get out and whatnot, and all this different family matter stuff. So thank you guys for watching and listening to me rant. I'm losing my voice slowly as I'm recording this, so I think I'm gonna have to call it quits on this video. But do me a huge favor and please like and subscribe below. Thank you.